Hi, this is Darren Curtis, and for this tutorial, we're going to make a flickering light using a timeline. First, we're going to go to our starter content prompts and get our SM lamp wall. And we're going to position it on the wall facing towards the player. All right, and then we're going to need to add our blueprint content folder, and then we will create our blueprint in the folder. And we're going to call it BP underscore flickering light and save it in our blueprint folder. Now we're going to close our blueprint for a moment. I always like to put my different elements inside the folders right away to keep things organized. So we're going to right click and add a folder flickering light to our world outliner. And then we're going to drag our blueprint flickering light into it. And we're going to edit our blueprint. In our viewport tab, we're going to add a component, then grab our point light, and we're going to position it inside our lamp. So once we have it where we want it, we can go to our point light and change it of the intensity to 0, so it only turns on when we step on the trigger. And after we did that, we will add a component and choose box collision. We'll make it very large. And we'll position it in front because our light is going to sit on the wall. We can adjust the trigger's height later if necessary, but now we're just going to compile and save so we don't lose any of our data. We will then go to our event graph. In our event graph, we will see event tick and event being play, and we will delete those if we don't need them. We will right click and look for add timeline. Then we will rename it flickering light. Then we will double click our timeline to open it. Click F to add a float track. As you can zoom out by clicking and using your mouse wheel as well. So by doing this, I will zoom out so 0 to 2 shows. Whenever you choose to change your length value to match or check, use the last keyframe. And it will use our last keyframe as the key at the end of our timeline. Then check loop because we want our flickering lights to loop. We will then right click on the red line and add key to several random places where we want our light to change. Then you drag the key up to different values between 0 and 1. And just gonna have a little fun with it. There we go. Now we're going to rename our track brightness. So now our node back on the event graph will say brightness. Now we're going to compile and save and close our timeline tab. Okay, in the event graph, we will come off of brightness and a float times float. Then in the B float, we're going to put our max brightness. Then the timeline will multiply our percentages by this number. So let's actually make this variable that can be set in our editor. So we'll make a new variable and we'll call it max intensity of that type of float. We will want it to be an editable in our tooltip, and it can be the maximum flickering light intensity. Now we can then drag out our variable, get it, and connect it to the B float value. We are going to right click and find the set intensity. And we will then connect our float box to our new intensity. We will then connect update on our timeline to set our set intensity. So now I knows what to do, and because we wanted to know when our player overlaps over our trigger box, we will actually delete the event actor begin overlap. And we will click on our box, and in the details, we will get our uncomponent begin overlap. We will then connect our timeline to our begin overlap because we want the light to stop flickering when we hit our trigger. With it set up this way, the light will start flickering when we walk over the trigger, and it won't stop when we leave the trigger. But then we can add a N overlap and connect it to our stop node to make the light stop flickering when we leave the trigger. So now so now that I know my blueprint is done, this is where I can add comments and highlight everything. By doing so, right click and type comment and hit enter. Our comment can be something like, On, begin, overlap, play, flickering light, timeline, and set point light intensity to brightness, float times max intensity. Or and overlap stops playing the timeline. Okay, so now we're going to compile and save the blueprint and close it. Right, so now we're going to need to set the max intensity. You can play with it, but we're going to try 2000. Then we're going to save our level and test it out by play. As you can see, you can turn on. So, also, you might have to play with the location of the point light inside the lamp, but otherwise, it works. If we leave our trigger, the flickering light stops. If we enter our trigger again, the flickering starts again. So now we know it works. And that's the end of my tutorial. Thank you.